Alright, so doing this in bed because some people don't like when I do it when I drive, and I'm too tired to sit in a chair. So, yeah, just thought I'd do this quick video. Today the Senate had a chance to pass the Defense Authorization Spending Bill. That would have given money to our troops and help fund like $700 billion worth of war-related expenses. Attached to that bill was the DREAM Act, Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and a new rule that would prevent the Senate from putting secret holds on stuff. Because now, secret holds, I hear stuff about it every once in a while. Basically, senators can put secret holds on stuff and prevent stuff from being done. Anyway, all three pieces of the legislation were important, along with, obviously, the Defense Authorizations Bill. And a few Democrats, all the Republicans, sided against it. And part of the problems that Republicans had was that they wanted to be able to offer unlimited amendments, even amendments that would strip out the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So it looks like Don't Ask, Don't Tell is not going to be repealed this year, and with midterm losses and an uncertain picture for the Democratic Party, we're not sure that it's ever going to be repealed. And as elections get closer and closer, I've started hearing, for those people who don't know, I entered law school about a month ago, yesterday. And I found it both interesting and challenging, because the conservatives that I'm around now are much more outspoken than conservatives that I was around, say, in undergrad. And they're, most of them, blisteringly smart, which is fun. It's always fun to spar. But I keep hearing from some of them and from some Tea Partiers, all these rallies, Glenn Beck rallies, and Christine O'Donnell, Sharon Angle. I was joking earlier tonight, I said, one Sharon Angle interview, Marco Rubio ad, or John Boehner tanning session away from having a stroke. That's really what it feels like. Oh, let's switch arms. It's really what it feels like. It's, and all these people who are arguing, I keep hearing, I want my country back, and people make this argument for strict constitutionalism, limited government. That's what I keep hearing from a bunch of conservatives, is I don't want government in my life. I want lower taxes. And Sharon Angle, I was reading a piece tonight, and she was talking, she did an interview on a conservative radio show, and a caller called in and said, I hate Obamacare, I'm with you on that one, but what about coverage for people with pre-existing conditions? And Sharon Angle said, that's great, I just wanted to point out that we have the best healthcare system in the world. Our problem is insurance, and if we make the pools larger, we can cover these people. And I posted on Facebook, I was talking back and forth with some friends of mine, and I said, actually Lex was who I was talking with out in Colorado, and, the thought process here, and it hurts your head when you start thinking about it. The thought process is that the free markets, the wildly free markets that we've had for the last few decades, really, you can kind of argue that regulations increased under Bill Clinton's presidency. But if you were to take from George I all the way through Obama, that was 12 years of Republican presidencies, and most of Bill Clinton's presidency was controlled by Republican House and Senate. Um, so, this idea that, um, you know, we haven't had free market, we've had widely deregulated uh, markets with lower tax rates. But basically, the argument is that people try to say that deregulation and low taxes is the solution, and that's part of the problem. This idea that government shouldn't regulate stuff led to these really shady mortgages that nobody read. And Lewis Black, I've had to listen to him a bunch over the last few days, just to kind of cut my ear, to keep a kind of happy face on it. And he says, imagine you're somebody who can't afford an apartment, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I know you can't afford that one-bedroom apartment. How would you like a house?" And the thing is that your mortgage that you haven't read, and my guess is that if you're unless you're a lawyer, you probably haven't read it. And even if you are a lawyer, you maybe haven't read it. People don't read their mortgages. You pay somebody else to read them, if at all. You may just read the, main terms and then say, well, the rest of it's probably all right. These guys are in the business of writing mortgages, so they know what they're doing. And then you go on your way. These companies knew that they were, people giving out mortgages without requiring proof of income. That's kind of a basic thing. If you're loaning somebody money, maybe you should check and make sure they have a job. If it's a couple, make sure they both have jobs. Maybe some savings. It's a basic tenet of loaning money, is that you loan people money with the expectation they'll be able to pay you back. And simple checks would make sure that they'd be able to pay you back. But they didn't do that. These lenders, these out-of-control lenders. And so that's something that increased regulation, big government, scary socialist government. It's like it's got 4 legs and it's walking around and it's eating kids. That's stuff that government can control. Somebody like an Elizabeth Warren, if the Consumer Financial Protection Agency, making sure that mortgages are easy to understand so that people do read them. If a mortgage was 10, 15 pages long, there'd be no excuse not to read them. That's when they span hundreds of pages. And Lewis Black was laughing. He said, it's 100 pages and there's no punctuation. It's just a run-on sentence. And that's what some of this stuff is. I mean, I'm in law school, and some of just basic, one-paragraph contracts, I'm like, I read that 5 times with Black's Law Dictionary next to me, and I have no idea what the hell that means. So I know that somebody with a high school diploma is going to have a hard time. I'm not building myself up. It's just a matter of education. And that's how that rolls. And then there are the people who are, like, strict constitutionalists, like, I don't like government. It hurts my heart, and it makes me laugh at the same time, when the same people who say that they don't want government controlling their health care, or not really controlling health care, mandating that you purchase it, and that basic protections be included, and that everybody, because I was talking with a new friend of mine from law school, and he was talking about Obamacare, and he said, when you break down the component parts, and this is something that we saw running up to healthcare passing, was that if you say, should everybody be covered? Should an insurance company be able to turn somebody away because of pre-existing conditions, or charge them an exorbitant rate, or drop them when they get sick, or, put a cap on their life-saving treatments? When you phrase questions like that, many more people would agree with Obamacare. Um, but when it's phrased, I mean, it's all about how you ask stuff. If you say, do you like the government takeover of healthcare? Then people think, Stan from the DMV is going to be in their gynecologist room, um, supervising a pap smear. And that's not what's happening. Um, Increased regulation has been characterized as socialism. And there hasn't been a very I mean, it's hard to combat fear with rationalism. Um, it's like when a kid has a nightmare and is convinced there's a monster under their bed. You can show them there's no monster, but until they get over that fear, they're not going to really be at peace. Um, so part of the problem the Democrats and the liberals, us liberals, have faced is how do we combat that? And I'm not sure there's an answer. Um, But what I was saying about small government is the same people who would, talk about wanting small government. Um, Ask them if they're in favor, if they're in favor of no government interference. Ask them if they're in favor of letting gays marry. If they're, people's private choices should be up to them. Keep government out of it. And then they'll say, well, no. That's the government protecting marriage. That's something else. And then if you were to say, well, so government probably shouldn't provide, um, you know, firefighters or police officers or teachers. Well, no. Those are essential services. We need those. Well, what about Medicare and Medicaid? They'll talk about how it's an unfunded liability, which it is. There's no doubt that we need reform. But ask them if we should cut that off and let people handle their own retirement. And the answer is no. We like that. That's what we need. So people are only against big government when it's the big government they don't like. And I was trying to explain to a friend, he was talking about Republicans getting back to sort of small government, almost more what I would term small government libertarianism than, conservative republicanism. And he was like, yeah, we kind of, during the Bush years, got a little bit wayward. And it's like, so how, if we're going on past performance, why am I supposed to believe now that Republicans are small government? And I'm all for, the budget being balanced. The last time we had a balanced budget, there was a Democrat as president, and Republican Congress. And maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need sort of a division of power so that, nobody gets too excessive. But when I see all these earmarks that are spent, and all this money spent on lobbying and private financing, I can't help but think that we've gotten to a point where money corrupts so much of our election system that how can it not corrupt our politicians when they actually sit in office? And they, all these people, and, if they've got money to spend, whether they're liberal or conservative, on their pet projects. When the deficit was ticking up under, wars and stuff, these same conservatives weren't necessarily fighting against that. So I thought I'd just make a little comment that when people say, if people say that they're against big government, make sure that they are actually against, if people want to say, I'm a socially conservative person, I believe that the government should prevent people from having abortions and gays getting married, but I believe that we should also have a robust military. I'm fine with that. That's a valid political opinion, but to just categorically say that I'm against government interference in private life and then be completely opposite of that drives me nuts, and it makes my head hurt. Alright, that's it for now.